The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
There it is, UBS Arena in lovely Long Island, New York, which will be home for this weekend's UFC Fight Night with a featherweight main event between Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez. Should be a heck of a main event, and it is a special main event as it is airing on ABC this Saturday. Hello, everybody. I am Brett Okamoto. I am actually just outside of that arena in Long Island, joined as always by Ian Parker, who is not here with me, which is unfortunate because we are in Ian's old stomping grounds. He actually grew up not too far from here. I imagine running some kind of illegal type betting ring at the age of 6 or 7. Is that about? Did I got that about right, Ian?
Pretty spot on. You know me way too well at this point, Brett.
Yep, start them early, as Ian likes to say when it comes to sports gambling. All right, let's get to this. We're going to take a look at this UFC Fight Night again. It's a big one on ABC. But before we do, let's take a look back at how we did last weekend inside the Apex in Las Vegas. We've had better nights, Ian, but you know this is going to happen at some point. We have never gone 0-4 in best bets. It happened to happen last week with Fiziev.
You know, we talked about this card being a hard one in general. There was definitely some turning points here I didn't expect. Ronnie Lawrence, I thought it was going to go the opposite. Thought he was going to control on the ground. Trajan Gore was looking better towards the end of that round until he wasn't. Tercios was not the Ricky we saw in The Ultimate Fighter. And Rafael Fiziev decided, I don't want to go an extra minute and a half and get you guys the win. So, yep, we blew it right there. But fortunately, we hit the parlay, minimized damage a little bit. These things do happen in gambling, but now it's time for a bounce back week, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, heck of a knockout there by Fiziev, but you couldn't have done it maybe 2 minutes later, Fiziev, and helped us out a little bit. Oh, well, no use crying over spilled milk. We will bounce back. We will have my hopes are high for this card. I think there's a lot of different things to talk about. Let's take a look at the main card on Saturday from USB Arena. It takes place, again, I'm going to keep saying it on ABC because that's exciting. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. That is where you can find the main card. Of course, you can also find it on ESPN Plus, but don't watch it on ESPN Plus. Hop on the network, watch it on ABC. You got Brian Ortega taking on Yair Rodriguez. Michelle Waterson is back after a little bit of a layoff, taking on Amanda Lemos. Li Jingliang taking on Muslim Salikov. Plenty of good fights here to talk about. Shane Burgos and Charles Jourdain. That might look like a fight of the night candidate. And we are going to go through all of these main card fights in detail, starting with that 145-pound main event. Ian, we've seen these two guys make weight. I thought that they both looked good, comfortable on the scale. Brian Ortega, man, he's 31. He's gone through, he lost to Max Holloway, took 2 years off, came back as a revamped version of himself. I'm wondering if the same could happen here because it's been 10 months since we've seen this guy against Alex Volkanovski. Taking on Yair Rodriguez, who surprised a lot of people, made a fight with Max Holloway very, very close last November. What are your general thoughts on this matchup?
It's funny. Back in the day, we used to look at fighters and say, all right, grappling versus striking. And then as the sport evolved, everyone became so well-rounded. But now we, I think, are really looking at a grappler versus striker, but we have a grappler here who I think likes to strike a little bit too much. What made Ortega so impressive in his fight against the Korean Zombie was that he was using his striking to set up his grappling, and he dominated on the ground. He didn't get the win by finish, but he was able to control, get damage, and he just had it was a very lopsided decision that I don't know if everybody thought was going to happen after suffering so much damage to Max Holloway, and that was, I believe, the first time in his career that he was actually stopped via TKO. He's got an interesting opponent here in Yair Rodriguez. Rodriguez has decent takedown defense, has a few submissions of his own, but we know between the striking, that will favor Rodriguez. He is a little bit wild, he's a little bit unpredictable, but most of the time he puts his combinations together and carries pretty solid power for the weight class. I'm intrigued by this matchup. For me, you look at Yair Rodriguez, and someone said to him, what is your game plan here? And he was very smart about it. I need to keep this on the feet. There's no question, because if he gets put on his back, he's not submitting Ortega from back there, and maybe his defense will keep him sound and he'll be able to prevent getting choked out. But this fight has to stay on the feet for him to get it done. That's where his advantage is, and I'm very curious to see which fighter is able to implement and impose their will.
Yeah, and we're going to get to your pick here in a second, and maybe you'll kind of leak into this with my follow-up question here. But how do you see the grappling going between these two? Because Brian is a guy that, as we all have known, is a fantastic finisher, but he's never really shown that strong wrestling ability to just get you to the ground. He has to kind of find his way into those situations. Once he's in those situations, he's obviously very good there. Yair, kind of remember once upon a time he was badly out-wrestled by Frankie Edgar. That was a long time ago. How do you see the grappling exchanges going between these guys?
It's a great question here because, to your point, Ortega doesn't necessarily set up his grappling through wrestling. Most of his submissions have been through guillotine. He pretty much gets you in the clinch. He waits for you to put your head down a little bit, and then he jumps on it. He cranks that neck, and he goes for it. His last triangle submission win, he ended up getting into the mount. He was reversed, but he was really setting up that triangle. For Yair Rodriguez, I don't see him putting himself in too many of those positions where his neck is just out there. That's not how he fights. In the clinch, he tries to separate himself. The way he strikes is from a distance. So for Ortega, he's going to have to get some sort of trip in the sweep, or he's going to have to use the wrestling that, to your point, we don't see that often. Brett, honestly, this is a very intriguing matchup. I don't think it's as simple as Ortega just gets him to the ground and out grapples him.
I agree with you, man. I do think that this is an intriguing matchup. I think that I could see it playing out in different ways. And that is why I got to be honest, Ian. I'm a little surprised that Brian is as high of a favorite as he is. Minus 170 seems a little steep to me when you got a guy who, again, does not always utilize his wrestling, has also been off for 10 months. But, you're the expert here. Where are we going with our pick? Do you like Brian Ortega at minus 170, or do you think, am I correct in thinking that price is a little too high?
Listen, we've been working together for almost a year at this point, and you're starting to read my mind. You almost just answered the question. I think the odds are too high in favor of Brian Ortega. He's coming off a beating from Volkanovski. Don't get me wrong. He had that guillotine opportunity that no one breaks out of. Volk did. And in round 5, Ortega still showed tremendous heart. He had spots where he was landing, but never an opportunity to really finish Alexander Volkanovski, where I thought Yair Rodriguez in his loss to Holloway looked incredible and was very surprising. So for me, I think the value is in taking Yair Rodriguez. I think this fight stays on the feet more than what people would expect. And I also really like over 3.5 rounds here. Both guys' last 2 fights by decision. For Ortega, last 3. I'm sorry, it is last 2. I think if the doctor didn't stop against Holloway, you know how tough he is, it would have went the distance. I don't think anyone gets finished in this fight either. So even plus odds to go to decision is not bad. But if you have to choose a side, I'm siding with Rodriguez in this one.
I love that, man. I love it when you do have an opinion on both. And I don't want you to force it ever, but it's always fun when you have an opinion on both the side, where the value is, and on the total there at 3.5 rounds, minus 130. Okay, let's move to the co-main event. It's at 115 pounds. Karate Hottie Michelle Waterson is back in the co-main event slot. She's taking on Amanda Lemos. And the odds are sort of reflecting what I think the storyline is around this fight. This is a spot for Lemos. This is a spot for her, a spot that I think that she can seize and take advantage of and put a big name on her resume. She is a minus 340 favorite to do so. Michelle Waterson, we know what we're going to get from her, man. She has been around for a minute. She has had a long career, both in the UFC and out. What do you think of this matchup? I like Lemos, of course. Everybody seems to like her and the power and everything she possesses. But at minus 340, what do you think of that line?
It's a high line. That's somewhere to throw her in a parlay if you want to take it money line that way. I think her opponent in Michelle Waterson, you're right. She's been around for a while, and because there's no atom weight, she's been in a weight class where she's always usually on the smaller side. She gets physically tossed around a little bit, but she's so tough and so hard to put away. You have someone in Amanda Lemos who is just a powerhouse in this class, but I think she's been humbled a little bit. I think someone in Waterson who fights from a distance, has that karate style, off her back, defensively sound. Her last 8 fights, win or lose, have gone to decision, and she's got a tough one here. She's got to stay away from Lemos' right hand. She's got to stay away from the power. She's got to be able to use that side kick to push her away and keep the distance in order to make this competitive. If somehow she could even take Lemos down and put her on her back and steal a round, that's where Waterson could do it. I don't see it happening, though. I think Lemos wins this fight. I think she gets it done by decision. Waterson's hard to put away. I think Lemos was humbled in the Angela Hill fight, humbled even more against Jessica Andrade, where I don't think Waterson possesses that power to get an arm triangle standing up. So I like Lemos to win by decision, and you can see those odds go to minus 110.
Yeah, no, I like this play, and I think it's a good breakdown there, especially Waterson's durability. She does have fight IQ in terms of keeping herself safe in some bad positions. She just went 5 rounds with Marina Rodriguez. She got beat up in that fight, but she didn't get finished. She does have a whole lot of heart, and I don't see that changing in this co-main event. So I'm with you. I like the fight to go the distance. Let's go to the welterweight division. Jingliang Li taking on Muslim Salikhov. Interesting fight to me. Jingliang Li, this is the first time we've seen him since Khamzat Chimaev did Khamzat Chimaev things to him back in October. Salikhov, 5-1 in the UFC, 16-2 overall, has not faced, Ian, I would say, the top levels of competition. He's been booked to fights against those, the likes of Nico Price and Santiago Ponzinibbio and Michel Pereira, but those fights have just fallen through. This, to me, looks like a step up in competition from what he's seen thus far in the UFC. Is he successful at -165 odds?
You know what, matchup-wise, I think between all the ones you just said, for me it would have been this one or Nico Price for where he's currently at in his career. He's a very good striker. His takedown defense is not amazing, but when he does get the takedown, he's very good on top position. You know, my question is for someone like the Leech right now, how do you bounce back from that fight against Khamzat Chimaev? You know, it doesn't matter that Chimaev has done that to everybody except for Gilbert Burns. The fighter mentality, it's hard when you get dominated that bad. Most of the time what happens is someone comes out and they're a little hesitant. They don't want to get hit. They don't want to get taken down. It throws them off a little bit, especially because he's had, I think, this is the longest layoff he's had in the UFC in a long time. I do like Salikhov here. I think this fight stays standing up. I think his striking is better. I know that the Leech has power. We've seen him knock out Ponzinibbio, but I think Salikhov is a very smart striker, stays away from the power, and I think he gets a good win here.
Okay. Taking the shot on Muslim Salikhov there in the third fight on the main card. Let's go to the flyweight division, man. This is an interesting one. Matt Schnell taking on Sumu Darji. Sumu Darji, just 26, fighting out of China. He's on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. Lot of, I wouldn't say hype around Sumu Darji, but a lot of promise. I think people recognize his potential. Obviously, when you see somebody who's just 26 years old putting win streaks together in the UFC, you take notice. Matt Schnell has been a guy who's been in this division for a while. He's competitive. He's had his ups and downs. He has kind of lacked that big signature win. He's coming off losses to 2 very good flyweights in Rogerio Bontorin and Brandon Royval. But he knows, you know, he knows that Sumu Darji is coming in as a favorite, and his back is up against the wall here a little bit. I expect a good effort here from Matt Schnell. Does he have the skill set to stop this 26-year-old?
You know what? Matt Schnell is such an interesting fighter. He's one of those guys that has all the talent in the world to be a top 5 fighter. In the Brandon Royval fight, there was a lot of spots where he could have won, but then he does the same thing. He does the same Matt Schnell thing he does in every fight. He's winning, makes a mistake, gets overzealous, loses. He's very well-rounded. There's not really too many holes, but he just takes too many shots in situations where he doesn't have to. And against someone in Tuna Majeri, this is not the spot to do that. So instead of picking a side because the odds are a little too high here, and I think Schnell is flying under the radar, I think it's a little wide, this line. I also think Schnell has become this guy that's like kill or be killed. So I'm going with that this fight doesn't go the distance. Someone, and I think probably Schnell is going to get knocked out here. But listen, Schnell's got a good ground game. We know that's where his opponent is his weakness if he has one. So yeah, I'm going, this fight doesn't go all 3 rounds at -190. I like that play.
I like it. Taking the under on a flyweight fight there on the main card. Okay, let's go to the 145-pound division. Ooh, this is a fun one, yeah? Charles Jourdain taking on Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos, got to be one of the most entertaining guys to watch. However, when you say that he's one of the most entertaining, that often comes with a little bit of an asterisk to it, that means he's getting hit, and he has taken his share of damage in the octagon. We've seen that in some of his losses, but his losses have come to very good competition. Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett, Edson Barboza. Shane has come out and said this is the final fight on his UFC contract. I'm expecting a very, very motivated effort by him. He's at an important part of his career. Charles Jourdain, 26, but he's got some experience there. You see 18 fights already in his professional career. What do we think of this one at 145 pounds?
You said it really well with Shane Burgos. The level of competition he's fought is tremendous in the division, and he's done okay. You know, in other spots, he's done really well. Where Burgos has not done great is usually in that first round. He comes out a little bit slow, or he's too accepting being on his back. You saw it in the Americani fight where he had to come back and win by TKO. The fight that I was most impressed about was the one against Billy Q. As you see right here, he was leading the dance. He was coming forward and he was moving his head around. You know, sometimes we question Shane Burgos' defense, like his toughness kind of gets in the way. He likes getting hit. He likes that warrior spirit. Against someone in Jourdain, that's a pretty bad idea. The guy's a fantastic striker. So for me, Shane Burgos, the size, he's also huge for this weight class. He has to be a bully here. He has to, I think, put Jourdain on his back or at least make that a threat, because if you get into a straight kickboxing fight, someone in Jourdain has that ability to make you miss, to throw something unpredictable, and it can throw you off. Now, in his last fight against Lando, I definitely butchered that last name right there. He won by guillotine, which was very surprising. He's not going to do that here against Shane Burgos. I don't see Burgos getting submitted. I like Burgos here. I think this is a tailor-made fight for him. It's going to be fireworks. At -170, I love Shane Burgos in this spot.
Yeah, fireworks I agree with. If there was a way to bet what is going to be the fight of the night, this would be my pick all day. Although, of course, we'd probably have to take some bad odds on that one, because I think everybody's got this one circled as the potential fight of the night. Okay, let's go to 125 pounds, not 135 pounds, for Miesha Tate making her flyweight debut. She's taking on Lauren Murphy, who is coming off of that title loss to Valentina Shevchenko. This is a big time opportunity for Miesha Tate. She just gets to jump into a new weight class, and if she wins this fight, she's probably getting a title shot, Ian. The odds are favoring her to do so, -220. What do we think about Miesha Tate being a -220 favorite in her first ever trip to 125 pounds?
The question here that had to be answered was, how would she look on the scale? How was the weight cut? I spoke to her team, and they told me she looks great, feels great, and you saw on the scale, she had no issue making weight. For me, and Brett, you're beating me to the punch in almost everything here on the show today. Yeah, I think this fight is to give someone like Miesha Tate, who's very marketable, the opportunity to give Valentina Shevchenko fresh blood, new title shot, while we wait for Talia Santos to heal. Miesha Tate has an opportunity here against an opponent that I really don't see any threat. Lauren Murphy is very tough. She's got some power. She's not a better grappler. She's not a better striker. I think Miesha fights this fight very smart. She's fought powerful women. She just fought Ketlin Vieira and went the whole way, didn't get knocked out there, and took some pretty heavy shots. I don't see where Murphy wins. If Miesha strikes the way she fought against Marion Renault and takes his fight to the ground, puts Lauren on her back, I think Miesha grinds a decision. You know, she's fought the who's who. She's very smart when she fights. She's tough. She understands this opportunity. I like Miesha Tate here, but I like her, Brett, to win by decision. Murphy's only been finished once in her career. That was by Valentina Shevchenko. No shame in that. I think Miesha also knows how important a win is in general. She goes back to the wrestling by decision.
Yeah, super interesting, man. To hear you say that you just don't see a path to victory for Lauren Murphy. You probably heard it in my voice when I was talking initially about the fight, that pause of making her a -220 favorite to moving down a weight class. But to your point, man, she has looked very, very comfortable. In fact, even saying this week that she thinks that this should have been the weight class that she was in all along, which is pretty wild to think about, because I remember she even had some trouble making weight sometimes at 135. But now, you know, the nutrition is on point, and she does look very, very good. She looks very good at 125, so we will see if that plays out in the octagon. Okay, that does it for the main card. Let's take a quick look at the prelims. A UFC Fight Night on Saturday in Long Island. There they are, quite a few of them to run through. Ian, I'll let you take it away and just run through quickly your prelim picks, your leans, quick thoughts on each prelim.
Soriano, Dalcha, we're going under 2.5. No secret why there. Dalcha does not finish fights, and Puna has got the power. Ricky Simone, Jack Shore, this fight's going the distance. Both these guys, great grapplers, great chins. That's a fight to watch out for. Algio Herbert Burns does not go the distance. Burns is a guy that either submits you or gets knocked out. Algio's tough as nails. This is the Twitter fight of the night. People have been talking about this one because of the odd flip. I think this fight goes to start round 3. It's just Jacoby's distance to stay away from the power of Zhang. Dwight Grant versus Stolfus. I like Dustin here at +115. And last but not least, I like Emily Ducote in her debut fighting the veteran Penne. I like her striking. I like her team. I think she gets it done.
Yeah, excellent breakdown of the prelims, and I'm being told that we have a new type of bet here on the show this week, which Ian likes to surprise us with from time to time because he's always looking for more ways to get action on the card. Ian, what do you got for us? It's something of a long shot, as I understand it.
Yeah, these are fun bets. And, when you go on social media, you see people doing this all the time. And I think I found one here. Look, I like Dustin Stoltzfus to beat Dwight Grant. Grant's a little bit older. He got knocked out in his last fight. And Stoltzfus has been very competitive his last 2 fights against Adolfo Vieira. He was 1-1 going to round 3 against Cheryl Mearshart. He was up 2-0 until he got submitted. Well, at plus 900 to win by TKO against Dwight Grant, I think that's possible. I love that play at plus 900. And that's going to be the long shot bet for tonight's card. I'm sorry, for the Long Island card.
Man, plus 900, man. We only got to hit one. Usually we're talking about the parlays, which we will talk about the parlay here in a second, and we're looking for 4 or 5 in a row if we're going to get plus money. Now we're getting plus 900 if Stoltzfus comes through. I like this segment. Hopefully we can keep this up and keep putting you on the spot with a long shot bet, Ian. Before we move on to your parlay, let's take a real quick closer look at one of the prelims. That is Ricky Simón taking on Jack Shore. I, like you, feel like this is a fight to keep an eye on. Why do you feel that way, and why are you making the pick that you are here?
You got 2 prospects that I'm actually surprised they're being put together at this point, just breaking through the top 15. Both guys have showed tremendous grappling, great striking, good cardio, just dangerous everywhere. Shore is undefeated. Simone's had a few losses, but outside of the Uriah Faber fight against top guys, this is just an interesting clash of really solid blue chip prospects here, really strong grapplers, and I just don't see either guy getting finished. We saw Shore in his last fight get out-grappled round 1, come back in rounds 2 and 3, and we've seen Ricky Simón out-grapple guys like Ronnie Yaya against Rafael Assunção. He got the finish. For Jack Shore, this is going to be his toughest test to date. He's going against someone, Ricky Simón, who is essentially a Tasmanian devil with the wrestling. His cardio is nonstop and he carries a ton of power. I'm curious to see how Shore goes against this. I think his best bet is to keep this on the feet. Very sound boxing. And for Ricky Simón, he's got to wrestle. So I think this is going all 3 rounds.
Yeah, fantastic fight. I think this could have easily been on the main card. Like you said, maybe Simón, if he gets a little wrestle happy, it might not be the most entertaining action-packed fight because Simón can do that. But this is a fight against 2 very, very good young fighters at 135 pounds. Okay, Ian, I've hinted at it a little bit. It is your parlay. We hit the parlay last week, which I love. Where are we going with the parlay this weekend?
We're going to go Amanda Lemos at minus 340. I do think she beats Michelle Waterson. Again, we said by decision earlier, this one just has to win, doesn't matter how. Sumajeri against Matt Schnell. I just think his striking is going to be too good. Schnell gets hit way too much, gets knocked out. And Puna Soriano, he's fighting a guy who, look, we know the guy looks like a Greek god. He's extremely muscular. Puna has wrestling. He's got power in his hands. Cardio is not the best on Dalcha's side, so I like these 3 to get it done, and we're getting plus 154. Only got to win 3 in this one.
Love that, man. Plus 154 to hit our second parlay in a row. And then what is the saying, Ian? There's it can only go up from here, and that is the case with the best bets. But again, not yanking your chain too much. We knew that was going to happen at some point. We move on. We forget about the 0-4 last week, and we're going to get a perfect week this week with your best bet picks. Give them to us.
I agree. Only way is up, my friend. I'm going Shane Burgos at minus 170. I think that reached that size. I think if he brings the fight to the ground, he will have an advantage there. I'm going Miesha Tate by decision. I really am having a hard time finding where she loses this fight, and Murphy is extremely tough to finish. This is a very important fight for Miesha. I think she's going to be very tactical. Minus 105 there. We just spoke about Ricky Simón and Jack Shore, and you brought up a great point. Ricky Simón can make this fight boring. So remember, we said it's a fight to watch for prospect purposes, not for excitement. It goes the distance. And then Jacoby Young. I think this goes to fight to start round 3. Jacoby is a guy who sits on his back foot. He picks you apart. And Young's got power. He could use his grappling. I think both guys make it to round 3, and that's going to be a fun fight to watch as well.
All right, guys. Yes, there are a lot of fun fights to watch this weekend at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, the ABC UFC Fight Night. Again, a main event between Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez. It's a busy summer for the UFC, man. We're just coming off of a fight card last week in Vegas. This week we're in New York. Next week we're in London. The week after that will be Dallas. So this show will be with you every step of the way. UFC Best Bets. Find it on the YouTube page as we keep bringing you ways to make money while you're enjoying the fights on Saturday. Hope you do so this weekend as well. For Ian and myself, Brett Okamoto, take care. We will see you next week.